classmates. This is Edwin Diaz from your class in Intercultural Communications, San Diego Christian College. This week is our last week, week 5, and we are to record our experience we had on week 4. For week 4, I decided to visit a Jewish synagogue. Saturday, I believe it was December 22nd, the weekend before Christmas. I visited the synagogue Beth-Shalom in Chula, Vista, California. It is on the old side of Chula Vista by 3rd Avenue. It was a pleasant experience, actually. I went early. I checked out their website. I saw their service times. They have a Friday Shabbat service, Friday night, and a Saturday morning Shabbat service. I decided to go to the Saturday morning after my graveyard shift. And I arrived there about 15 minutes before 10. Very peaceful, very quiet Saturday morning. Not a lot of people were there. Just a few people walking their dogs. Around, I think 10 on the clock, there was a lady who introduced herself as Stephanie, who opened up the temple, the synagogue. She saw me outside and she welcomed me in. She made me feel very comfortable. She was very welcoming. She asked right away if I was Jewish. I said no, I wasn't. Once we were inside, I was able to introduce myself, let her know that I'm a student at San Diego Christian College, and I'm checking out her service for a project. She was very pleased. She liked it. It seemed like she liked the fact that she was going to be able to show off her religion and do a tour of her synagogue. So she liked that I was there. She explained to me that everyone that comes in wears a kippah, which is a headgear. I thought it was called a yarmulke. I think it's both. She also explained to me that it's customary to wear a talit, which is a prayer shawl that goes over the shoulders, the back, sometimes even the head. She did tell me I didn't have to wear it since I wasn't Jewish, but the kippah, the headgear, I did. So I partook in that. Right before service started, she took me around the the temple synagogue. She explained to me that I guess the altar has a podium called the bima, which is where they read scripture from. Their church, their synagogue was very, it resembled a lot of a small Christian church. It was seating. They had a lot of flags around, actually. Israeli flags. On the actual seats, on the, I forget what they're called, not podiums, on the pews, the church pews, I'm sorry. On the church pews there was 2 books. One of them was the Torah, which had the Hebrew writing and the English translation, and then I had another one which was kind of like a hymns book, which had, again, the Hebrew writing and the English translation. As she was setting up, the rabbi came out. He came out to me and greeted me in Hebrew. I didn't know I didn't understand, so right away, Stephanie, she was able to inform him that I wasn't Jewish, that I was only visiting from a Christian college. So again, he was very welcoming as well. He offered me a seat, and he acknowledged me a couple times throughout his sermon. During the sermon, it was very, very casual, informal. A lot of people, as the rabbi was giving the sermon, a lot of people would comment on his sermon. He was very open about it. It wasn't disrespectful. He would clarify whatever question his members had. And after he stopped his sermon for about an hour, like another formal sermon started, I believe. The rabbi mentioned that they have 10 people, or at least 10 practicing Jews, to begin the service, the formal service. And they did. As soon as they began, they went to the back of the altar. There was a veil. They opened the veil and they brought out two scrolls, or one scroll, which was the Torah. From the Torah, they brought it out. They put it on the bima. And I forgot to mention, before this formal sermon, the informal sermon or the teaching was off to the side of the bima in a little podium that we usually see in like a Christian church. So the formal service or the formal teaching was from the bima with the Torah. They read the Torah in Hebrew. They read it, they chanted, they sang, and the rabbi would call up different church members or practicing Jews, and they would rotate the scripture. They would read it. This went on for about another hour. And I liked the fact that there was kind of like an informal teaching, then like a very formal scripture reading. They took it very serious. I was very respectful throughout this whole time. I stood when they all stood. I sat down when they all sat down. Towards the end, when they were going to put the Torah, scroll up the Torah and put it away, they scrolled it up, covered it, walked it down the center of the aisle, all the way to the back. And every person touched the Torah, kissed it, touched and kissed their fingers. And I had no clue that we were supposed to follow the Torah, so I kept looking forward. And then Stephanie, who was kind of like the rabbi assistant, she said she's a gabbai. She motioned to me to turn around to follow the Torah, and so I did. So she wasn't disrespected, or there was no misunderstanding. She knew I didn't know. After that, I put the Torah away. A lady came up, made some announcements that there was a fellowship after service on a building over in the same campus in the community center. I thought it was nice that she mentioned me by name. She said, "Daniel, you can join us," which I did. Afterwards, I went over, and they had another ceremony, like a little tradition where before they opened the spread for people to join, they had a baked bread, and they had like a pot of water on the side. So as a symbolism, they washed their hands into another pot, and they broke bread. They sliced the bread in half, which gave the okay to begin. So by that time we were all lined up. I said a prayer. They opened the spread for everyone. We went in line. A little potluck. Helped myself to a kosher plate, and I was able to sit down, and about 3 people were able to come to my table and make conversation about my experience. They asked me who I was, why I was there. Once I told them I was there for a class assignment, they were very open. They were very eager to share about their culture and how long they've been Jewish, or how they came to the Jewish faith. Everyone was very welcoming. I felt like a comfortable guest, and they were very open to me being there. There was about, I would say, were there any misunderstandings? Yeah, there was a couple. One misunderstanding was, I failed to mention that in the beginning when I was waiting outside the temple or the synagogue, and Stephanie, the gabbai, the rabbi assistant, she opened the door. She was outside greeting me, and I extended my hand, to greet her, and she reluctantly, she didn't want to shake my hand at first, and then I heard her say to herself, "No, we're outside the synagogue, it's okay." So she extended her hand and greeted me. I found that was a little odd until we were inside the church, and I guess another newcomer that was been going there for a couple times did the same thing, extended his hand over to her inside the temple, and she very politely clarified and said, "That's not proper. Only the men should only touch women that are in their immediate family, so moms, sisters, and daughters." And I was able to put 2 and 2 together as to why she was reluctant to shake my hand at first, but she did because we were outside the synagogue, so she felt it was okay, and it would have been rude of her not to. Another thing was like I mentioned, the walking of the Torah. I didn't know we were supposed to follow the Torah. I kept looking forward, which made it seem like I gave my back to the Torah, the scrolls as they were walking. But Stephanie, she was able to motion for me to turn around, which I did immediately. What did I like? I like the fact that a lot of the traditions that they have are kept over thousands of years, or however long the Jewish religion has been for, since the beginning of time, basically. It's just, I don't know, it just awes me how every Jewish person does this every Saturday or every service, every Shabbat. Stephanie was able to share with me how when they come into a church or when they pray at home, they have that prayer shawl that I mentioned, the talit, that goes over the back. And she put it over her head, she covered herself, and she said a prayer and in Hebrew. And when she was doing that, something, I don't know, it caught my attention. It was very moving because it was something very personal that I guess a Jewish person does in their prayer corner, I guess, prayer closet with God or Jehovah. So I looked into it. I looked into the prayer shawl, and a lot of people are doing it. I guess it's kind of trending in the Christian community or in the Messianic Jewish community. And I ordered one on Amazon. And actually I ordered two just in case, I don't know, I might need an extra one. And this one came straight from Israel, according to this, made in Israel. So there's a lot of symbolism in the prayer shawl. There's a lot of history in the prayer shawl. And it basically, bottom line, it symbolizes that. It symbolizes that when you pray and you put this over your shoulders and your back, you're supposed to count the threads. Make sure there's 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Nice and tight, which there is. And I guess there's a lot of history behind this, because in the prayer shawl, that's something that Jesus wore himself. And a lot of people are saying that when the woman with the issue of blood wanted to receive healing, she knew that by touching the mantle, which is a prayer shawl, she would receive healing. A lot of scholars, Jewish scholars, believe that when she touched his mantle, it was the prayer shawl, and it was these little strings that fall. So a lot of people explain that when she touched this, the healing power came out of the prayer from the shawl into her body. Very interesting. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate. First they say the Hebrew prayer, looking at the prayer here in Hebrew. They kiss it. They don it over. They say the prayer in Hebrew. I do not know the prayer, I'm sorry, I haven't learned it. They cover up. And then this is supposed to symbolize God being your shelter and your refuge as you pray. And then during service, you wear it, cross your back like this. A little off center, there it is. And sometimes they just kind of fold it over so it won't. That's what I saw some people do. All in all, it was a good experience. Learning something outside of Christianity. Learning where Christianity came from. The Jewish religion. I liked it. I learned a lot. Felt interesting learning something out of the Christian religion. And would I go back? I would visit a Jewish synagogue again. I'm interested in visiting them during their we call it Christmas, during their Hanukkah, just to see how they they go about their ceremony. Also, it'd be interesting if I were to be invited to see like a bar mitzvah, how a young man becomes a man. And also, what's another question? I noticed that it would be a little not difficult to share the gospel with a Jewish person, but there would be some resistance because of the tradition. There have been thousands of years that Jewish people pass these traditions on, and they don't acknowledge Jesus. That for you to present the gospel to them, they would obviously not disrespect you, but I don't think they'd be very receptive to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I mean, the only way I see, in my opinion, is if there would be some sort of just hard time, like a miracle was needed, and you present the gospel to them, and they're able to believe for a miracle, and a miracle is able to happen, like a child's able to be healed for some sort of a disease. It would be extreme circumstances like that I would see maybe someone of a Jewish faith would be open to receiving the gospel. Other than that, all in all, it was a great experience, pleasant experience. I don't regret it. Like I said, I'd like to go again. But other than that, good assignment, good class. Really enjoyed this class. Thank you.